The Chicago Bears have found a way to get a leg up on the competition, and this is a pretty nice angle here on two fronts. And what's up? This is Sports Talk Bears. I'm your host, Sean. We have built a positive, really nice community here. If you love the content, hit the subscribe button. We are building towards 10,000 subscribers and help us get there. So, there's yet another wrinkle to the upcoming season, and it involves the NFL's completely new kickoff format. I'm going to get into the specifics on what that format actually entails in just a minute. But a big thing that this is going to affect is a few personnel decisions all through training camp. And I think it greatly affects third-year wide receiver Velus Jones Jr. He may be going from a player who's on the roster bubble to having a strong role on special teams. And I'm going to go to this story here on Bears Report. You guys check out the whole profile. It's great. I always want to give credit. So third-year wide receiver Velus Jones has been looking good for him, right? With the top three wideouts the Bears have in Moore, Allen, Rome Odunze. And if you look at his stats, he's only had 11 catches in 2 years. And I'm not even going to get into the drops. It's been really bad. But these new rules, they may be coming at the absolutely perfect time for Jones. We might forget, or we have forgotten, his time as a return guy at Tennessee in college. Looking back in 2021, Jones won the SEC Special Teams Player of the Year alongside Jameson Williams. Jones joined Alabama stars Williams and Jalen Waddle as the only kick returners to win this award over the last 8 years. That's some pretty nice company, right? And actually, he was one of the best kick returners in the whole NFL last year. And I didn't realize this. He was fourth in total returns of 16, fourth in total return yards with 435, and number one in yards per return with 27.2. I didn't realize that. He was number one in yards per return. So is it possible that something's happening, that with the new rules, the Bears can have a stable of returners with Jones, Carter, even potentially undrafted free agent Ian Wheeler out of Howard? I really like him. He is a speedster, and he has been great returning kicks in college. You guys, I'm going to pull some quotes from that story. So is this possible? It's going to be a super fun battle in training camp where maybe the winner can bring back some Devin Hester nostalgia with him getting into the Hall shortly. I know that's a big reach, but we can only dream, right? The Bears aren't the only ones. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they immediately acted once this rule change was put into effect by signing return specialist Cordarrelle Patterson. I mean, good teams are preparing for this big time, and the Bears are one of them. Special teams coach Richard Hightower, he's a fantastic coach. He's hinting that he sees a way to gain an edge through the new rules, and he was also incremental in putting them in place. More on that as well. And an edge can likely be found by using a two-deep kick return formation. I mean, now over the years, we haven't seen that very often. It's become less and less common. But the Bears were already experimenting with this during mini camps and OTAs, and Hightower was opening it up to flexibility. And then it's not only two return men, but also a potential extra blocker. And this could be super beneficial. And the biggest name to benefit from a two deep, it's Velus Jones. But the move towards this, it was also telegraphed a bit by the signing of DeAndre Carter, a return specialist. He's shown an elite skill set in that regard. And let's just hear it directly from Coach Hightower. And I'm pulling this from that story I just had up. I don't know to what extent, because the league is all about matchups, especially when you're dealing with like special teams. This is from Hightower. So we're going to have to match up with whatever personnel group we're going against. And we've been fortunate to have bigger players that can run and even smaller players who are more powerful, like Roschon Johnson or like Travis Homer. Those guys can block linebackers, and they're fast enough to also block DBs. He also seems to have an intent on using Jones in a way to best use his skill set. So far, it hasn't been at wide receiver. We already covered that. Jones is specially suited to the new rules, and this is just a dude with elite power and speed. Hightower followed this with a guy like that with this type of skill set with the speed and the power that Jones has, and he's coming full speed at you. It's like a darn freight train running at you, and he's going to get an opportunity to touch the ball 3 to 4 more times a game, and that's great for us. So let's see if we can understand the new kickoff rules here. It's kind of convoluted, but let's do our best. The 2024 NFL season, it's going to include an entirely new kickoff format, and it resembles what the XFL utilized recently and in the past. The kicker, he's going to be by himself at his own 35-yard line. So picture that. And he's going to be required to kick the ball into what they're calling a landing zone. And that's going to begin at the opposite 20-yard line. Every other player is going to line up between the opposing 40-yard line and the 30-yard line. And this change is being put in place to facilitate returns. That means coaching staffs like Richard Hightower, he has to pay special attention to strategy to take advantage of this. And under the new format, players who aren't the kicker or the returner, they're not allowed to move until the ball is fielded. This sets up a loose line of scrimmage, if you will, a line that the returner will have to essentially break through. So having a 2 returner set, that allows more motion, right? It allows more creativity. And this is definitely going to make the return game just a big factor in games again. Gone will be the listless, just kick it out of the end zone stuff that's recently made the return game kind of obsolete. It's like, oh, they're kicking the ball, I'm going to go grab some chips. This also affects who actually kicks the ball off as well. And this is an interesting wrinkle to this. It might be a skill position player. As this new format, it leaves the kicker as the last line of defense, kind of on an island. So if a big play breaks off right and the returner gets through this setup zone line of scrimmage that we're going to see, he's going to be the last line of defense. And is it wise to have a kicker in that position? The Kansas City Chiefs, they're considering, for example, they're considering using safety Justin Reed as their kickoff man instead of kicker Harrison Butker. So what does that do? The Chiefs aren't the only team considering this as well. The Chicago Bears, their special team coordinator, Richard Hightower, who we've been talking about, he said he's looking at everyone and anyone for kickoff duty. And this is kind of a funny quote. Anybody with a helmet can kick off. It's always in play. And that's via Pro Football Talk. So what does this look like? I mean, having a positional player kick off, it's not ideal, right? It's going to probably sacrifice accuracy, sacrifice distance, most likely. But the Bears, we're sitting here with at least 2 legit returns threats and the recent draft. That might have provided yet another advantage just baked into it. As you guys know, our recent draft pick, we have the best punter who probably ever played the college game, and that's Torrey Taylor out of Iowa. The fun thing about this, the guy's built like a linebacker. I mean, is this a big advantage the Bears can utilize? I mean, he's 6'4", he's 225 pounds. Can we take advantage of his superior ball placement, which he has in droves, but also be able to rely on him to be the safety valve? I mean, it's just the thought. Santos is not the option here. We've got to pivot. Here's the thing, though, too. Coach Hightower, he has had an insider view on this rule change from the start. I think he's going to be among the most innovative in taking advantage of this and finding an edge. He had a definite role in getting this rule passed. He brought it into the NFL along with some other coaches and advisors around the league. And this is to hear from Coach Hightower again. We've heard from him a lot today. There's a cause and effect to everything. And pertaining to the rules, I was honored and happy to be a part of that working group along with Darren Rizzi and John Fassel. They work with the NFL office and work with the owners to get the proposal on the table and to help get it passed. And Hightower continues with, and so many other people were involved as well. That was just a great opportunity, and I think it's going to help the game. He's also getting ahead of the curve in studying possible ways to exploit it, and he has been doing so when exploring ways to get this rule passed. And this is the final quote from him. Just bring clips from either the XFL or bring clips in from when the kickoff return was different, when you had to down the ball and it was a live football. We could go back and bring those tapes. I got a library that spans back all the way back to when I was a quality control coach. So I got tapes all the way back to 2006. If it's a clip to teach them, then I'm using all that stuff to teach them. So kind of the close, right? NFL kickoffs are no longer about kicking the ball the furthest. It's now going to be about being good enough to put the pigskin in the landing zone consistently. Completely different strategy. And substituting another player who's more of a sure tackler over the kicker, that's an area that teams are considering, and the Bears are definitely doing so. And under this new format, players who aren't the kicker, players who aren't the returner, once again, they're not allowed to move until the ball's fielded. So you're going to see a lot of motion. You're going to see a lot of strategy with, especially if the Bears are using two returners in the backfield, some misdirection here. So this sets up, once again, a loose line of scrimmage, if you will. The returner is going to have to break through. And if the returner is successful doing so, the kicker is going to be the last player who can save a touchdown. And I think we have a unique advantage with Tory Taylor. Not only is he probably the best that we've seen in forever in being able to place the football very, very accurately. He is such a weapon, and he's going to be moving into this season. We also have an advantage of also having some elite returners already in place, and also guys like Travis Homer that can actually cover defensive backs, but also make tackles on special teams. And this is just going to be so interesting. I think it's going to add so much more to the game. And if we're blessed, we get to have Devin Hester vibes again, once again, as a team. We're even talking about, as a coaching staff, even using Rome Odunze as a returner in situational things. So I'll talk about that later in the week, but that's yet another thing to consider. And Devin Hester was his favorite player growing up as a Bears fan. So much to consider. This is going to be so much fun. You guys, thank you so much. Like and subscribe. So glad that you're here, and I am out. Bear down. See ya.